9 verses from the Gospel of St. John, the burial clause are mentioned 3 times. It is clear that for John, it was important to claim not only that he ran faster than Peter, but there was something in these clauses that made an impact on him. Maybe it was simply that they were rolled up so neatly and where they were placed, and the description is so exact. You ever had that kind of memory where something has happened and you remembered exactly, like a picture in your mind, the way things were? Perhaps it was simply that, well, the fact that they were all rolled up so neatly meant that it couldn't be what Mary Magdalene had thought. It couldn't have been a grave robber. Grave robbers tend not to leave things in neat places, in neat ways. But maybe it was something more. Something personal to John. We really don't know. But you know, about 8 years ago, when I was a pastor in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, it's a tough job, so that's got to do it. Our deacon came to me with this idea. He wanted to do a pilgrimage to Italy. And he said, if you go, Father, you can have a free trip, and we're going to get to see this really special exhibition of the Shroud of Turin, because there was a special exhibition that year. I said, you had me with free trip. I wasn't so sure about the Shroud of Turin because probably like you heard that a number of years ago the shroud was tested with a carbon dating system, and they thought that it did not date back to the time of Jesus. I was to find out something different later. But nevertheless, I thought, well, my basic attitude was, can't hurt, might help. So off we went to Italy, and little did I know that I'd be there for 6 years, starting 2 years later. But we went to this exhibition, and it was different from any other kind of religious exposition I'd ever been to in Italy. For one, it was organized. They actually did have a line. I lived with an Italian for 6 years, and his great line that he would muster up in English was, I am Italian, I do not queue. And they don't. But this was something quite different. Not only was it very international, and everything was done so that no matter what language you spoke, it made sense to you. And they showed a film before you got in that explained what you were going to see. And then we went in small groups and saw the shroud and prayed before it. And afterwards you left, and there was exposition, and the sacrament of confession was offered, and prayers for people, prayers for the sick. And I have to say, this skeptical priest saw something of what John saw in that burial plot. The burial cloth that that, if true, witness the resurrection. The cloth really was an encounter in prayer and sacrament and charity. And like our Lenten journey, it brought many, I think, from seeing to witnessing. You know, that's the journey of this Easter season. We move, just as Lent brought us through prayer and penance to the cross and the empty tomb. The Easter season brings us from the empty tomb to the proclamation of the gospel and of the good news that we hold in our hearts and in our faith. That's the journey that this season of Easter calls us to. Not only to acknowledge and to believe, as John did, but to come to a deeper understanding of what it is we believe, what it is we as Christians proclaim. And as Catholics, we haven't always been particularly good at that. When I was a little boy, they had running water back then, just to assure you. My family would occasionally go out to eat at a restaurant, which was a big deal, you know. Now, my family was very Catholic, so we never started anything without praying, particularly a meal at home. I mean, you could get loose fingers if you jumped in too fast. But something was different about it when we were in the restaurant. Because my mother would lean over to me and say, "You say your prayers privately to yourself. You." Well, really, when that was training me, then my faith was a private thing. And when you're out in public, don't make, maybe there's a good part, don't make a show of your faith. Because we all know people like that. But at the same time, it's kind of the way our society is today. Make your faith a very private thing. Keep it in your home and keep it in church, but not out there. But yet, this feast, this season, calls us to witness that faith. To not be afraid to make the sign of the cross in a restaurant before you eat. But not just that. How do our lives give witness to what we believe? Nothing destroys witness more than hypocrisy. More people have been turned off to the gospel message by the hypocrisy of Christians. And we have to be very careful that we don't do that we walk the walk. To give witness in our workplace, not to be afraid to mention that we go to church and why we do. Do our lives, does your life, only you can answer this question. Is your life giving witness to what you say you believe? Or have you allowed it to become a private thing? Because seeing and believing is important, and the shroud for me was an impressive moment. But doing it for each other. The encounter came in sacrament and in love, which is why, by the way, we gather in church on Sundays, to encounter the risen Lord in the sacrament of this altar, and the love of our brothers and sisters with whom we share these chairs. May the grace